I always feel really inspired after every restorative dialogue or conference that I facilitate. People are always bringing their stories in ways that you just don't expect. And so you just learn from a lot of different stories and cases. And it's not necessarily the biggest cases that make an impact on you. It's just what people share. And then just seeing folks at the end of it resolving that conflict or harm and thanking you, and they've really done the work, is really inspiring. So my name is Rami El Gharib. I use he, him pronouns. I'm currently based in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved to the United States in 2018 from Beirut, Lebanon. And the reason why I moved to the United States was partly to pursue a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. But the main reason behind it is because I am a gay man who comes from a country where it's illegal to identify as part of the LGBTQ community. So if you are outed in Lebanon, or if law enforcement has proof that you are queer, then they have the right to arrest you and put you in jail for anywhere between 3 months to a year. And so my parents were very worried about that. They are luckily supportive. So they said to me, you have to leave Lebanon, you have to leave the country. And so I moved to the United States in hopes of creating a better life for myself and for my family as well. Moving to the US was a culture shock for me as an Arab. It's difficult being an immigrant. It's a new identity that is really forced upon you, and there's no manual to help you understand what being an immigrant is like. In my degree, we had to get internships. And I remember at the time, I didn't really know about restorative justice. I had heard of it in passing. However, I really got introduced to it in my first internship. So prior to getting that internship, I was not getting hired by other companies because I was not a US citizen. And I say that that is the best thing that's ever happened to me, because that was my intro to restorative justice. A nonprofit reached out to me and said, we would like it if you would work with us and learn more about restorative practices and maybe use your industrial psychology background to help us implement restorative practices and a restorative justice and a culture in a workplace. And so that's how I really got started in restorative justice. So I come from a country where if you want to get things done, you have to really be loud and yell at people, and there's a lot of this punitive approach to every situation that you face, or every obstacle that you face. And so during that internship, I was given a lot of books to read. I was given a lot of resources to look over, a lot of different trainings. And at first, I kept hearing like my dad's voice in my head saying, is this really going to work? Is this really the way we deal with things? And I came to realize that it is, that people are open to this, that people want this. And I've come to realize that that is really what has been missing in my life, a restorative approach. I was a very angry young man who was angry at society for not accepting me. And then being introduced to a field where respect and relationship and community is so valued has changed me immensely. So I just said to myself, it's meant to be. I meant to go into this field and do this work. I moved to Colorado, got a job as a restorative justice coordinator, and started facilitating cases for youth who were caught up in the system. And during that time, I was able to create an LGBTQ plus youth safe space that incorporated restorative practices. It was funded by the state of Colorado. I was able to create the Restorative Rainbow Lines, an LGBTQ plus nonprofit in the field of restorative justice, worked part-time with a couple of organizations to facilitate cases or to advise them on how to implement restorative practices in schools. And after that, I got married to a man from Alabama, and he wanted me to move there, but we settled on Georgia. So I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, working as a restorative justice program manager. I think I've been able to have my voice and my needs elevated because I feel like the movement has been receptive, and also just being able to point out why this is so important. This is a new field. We're still evolving, and being able to come in at this time and say, these are certain needs that queer folks have that we need to pay attention to, that we need to work towards. We need to really integrate queer identity into this field. And through my restorative rainbow lines work specifically has been really important. A year ago, we finalized a restorative rainbow lines code of conduct that elevates LGBTQ plus needs in the field. And it was adopted by the state of Colorado's Restorative Justice Council, which was huge to me because as an immigrant who came here not knowing anyone, having a document that I wrote based on my lived experience was just so powerful that a state entity was able to take that into consideration. And now seeing different organizations starting to spread that has been really just heartwarming for like my 15-year-old gay self who really hated myself back in the day, and has just been really nice to see the good work that can be done for youth and adults these days. So the Restorative Rainbow Alliance started because I had just started with a nonprofit in Colorado as a restorative justice coordinator, and I was speaking to a volunteer about what cases were like in the past before I had arrived, and she told me about the story of a young gay man who was being bullied at school and decided to retaliate by physically punching the other person who'd been bullying them for a year, and then got a ticket from the school resource officer and was referred to restorative justice. And then after being referred to restorative justice, they were categorized as the responsible party for the harm and were made to speak about how they've caused harm and we're made to really repair the harm to the person who had been harming them for a year with homophobic comments and remarks. And so luckily there was a convening with this Restorative Justice State Council and the Colorado Coalition for Restorative Justice Practices, where I was able to bring that up. And we started talking and other people started sharing about what was going on and how we're being misgendered in circles, or there was no attentiveness to power dynamics, or cases being referred to restorative justice. However, there is no analysis of like the deeper harm that was there and how identity plays a role. We started working as a group towards addressing those needs, and we worked with others at the time on writing a code of conduct that was adopted, as I mentioned. We've also worked with district attorneys and state entities to revamp their forms and make them more inclusive. We've been giving talks and trainings on LGBTQ plus sensitivity in criminal justice reform, in the workplace, when dealing with students. And also right now we're currently hosting circles for the survivors of the Club Q shooting that happened in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And also we're currently hosting circles of support for LGBTQ plus immigrants in Atlanta, Georgia. People could have easily said to me, you're new to this field, what do you bring with Restorative Rainbow Alliance? But that hasn't been the case. People have been open to it. People have been open in imagining a new world in this field, in evolving this field. It's still so new. There is still so much we can do. Restorative justice means, to me, the ability to have a voice when you feel like that voice isn't elevated in certain systems and in certain communities. It's the ability to be in community without having to worry about shame responses and just being supported in whatever community you are either at or you belong to. Being a gay man, or being queer in general, I think we have to work harder to earn a seat at the table. And so having my voice elevated is important, and having seat at the table to be able to say, this is what my experience has been, and I would like people to listen to it so that they can learn from it, has been really important for me. And I think it's something I've been able to achieve in a way in this field. I came into this field really wanting to learn from others. There was no one person who I just thought of as, the ultimate leader in the field of restorative justice, or this is the right way to do restorative justice. I just came in, learned through my internship and mentorship, and then moved to Colorado, learned more, and now Atlanta learning more. And I'm constantly, I feel like I'm building more skills because I'm talking to new folks, I don't think there is a ceiling on how much you can learn in this field, because there's different communities and different individuals and different things that work. And even folks who I've mentored who come into this field, I'm learning from them things that worked out for them. And I'm like, okay, I can integrate this into like my own work and practice. So there's just always new learning opportunities. And I encourage everyone to always be ready to learn from everyone in this field.